Svinimir's state was the largest state of the Kingdom of Dalmatia and Croatia in terms of area, and it also included Dalmatian and Posavina Croats. Posavina Croatia was between the Kupa, the Sava and the Drava from the river Russia in Istria to the Kupa and the Sana, and in the north to the Drava. This means that in the west it started with the river Russia, which was often the western border of Serbia. In Svinimir's time, the region of Dalmatian Croatia between the rivers Krka and Zrmanja was annexed to that Posavina Croatia. Svinimir's break with Byzantium and being placed under papal rule could not pass without difficulties and consequences because of it is a kingdom, in fact, from the beginning until then, a Byzantine toparchy, diocese or topic. The Dalmatian cities under Byzantine protection, although Byzantine Venetian allies were present, were under the administration of the imperial commissioner with the rank of captain. The Croats, nor the dynasty that ruled over them, never got these cities. In the time of Petar Krešimir, the Byzantine captain in Dalmatia was a certain Lav or Leo. In all these cities, the church rite was performed in the manner of Eastern Church. The Byzantium was then unable to forcibly regain its rights to the Kingdom of Dalmatia and Croatia, so in 185, Emperor Alexius transferred his rights to the subject to his ally and protege, Duž Vital Feledr, who took the title Duke of Venetia, Duke of Dalmatia and Croatia, and the Imperial Protosevast. This, in fact, meant that Faledro was legitimate ruler of Dalmatia and Croatia, and that Svinimir was usurper. It is also striking that Faledro does not take the title of king, but stays with Venetian title of duke or Duž, which is a lower title than the royal one. From this we can conclude that Venice, and especially Byzantium, did not recognize this state as a kingdom, nor as an independent state, but considered it a Byzantine province. King Bodin, 1085 to 1111. After the death of King Michael, his numerous sons agreed that the heir to the throne would be Bodin, his youngest son from his first marriage. Since Bodin was then imprisoned in Antioch, his older brother Radoslav II was temporarily performing the royal duty. The Serbs freed Bodin through a skillful intrusion into the fortress where he was detained, and in a way that could have been the subject of a novel. Bodin ascended the throne of Serbia in 1085. He was a man of great abilities and a great statesman. Immediately after ascending the throne, he cruised to Serbia and replaced disobedient Bans and other officials and appointed loyal and conscientious people in their place. He appointed 2 Bans in Raška, Volkan and Marko, and in Bosnia, Ban Stefan. All 3 were men from his court. Bodin's Serbia in west included Lika, Krbava and Dalmatia up to river Krka. The northern border of Serbia was on the river Sava and along this river all the way to the Una. King Dmitar Svinimir was killed by Croats in Dalmatian Kosovo in 1087 out of revenge for the violent Latinization of the church. On his deathbed, he cursed the Croats. "I hope they were always Croats and never had a king of their language." That curse sounds strange. They spoke Serbian, and there were a special people who only spoke in that language. We really don't know who Svinimir was. The only thing to understand is that he was a nobleman because he was married to the daughter of Hungarian king and was Ban. He was the last king of Dalmatia and Croatia, a kingdom that lasted exactly 1 century. Svinimir's son Radovan could not inherit his father due to great riots that occurred after the assassination of the king. There were power struggles between Queen Jelena and a certain Stefan. The riots were interrupted in 1089 by Jelena's brother, Hungarian King Vladislav, who came with the army and occupied the entire kingdom of Svinimir. The state was never rebuilt, it remained only as one province of the Kingdom of Hungary. King Vladislav died in 1091. He appointed his cousin Alma to rule the lands of the former kingdom in his capacity as a duke. Alm's brother Koloman will be the first and the last of the Hungarian kings to be crowned in Belgrade at sea in 1102, and as the king of Dalmatia and Croatia. There were more Serbs than Croats, starting with the third Ban in a row, Belos. The Croatian kingdom disappeared during the reign of Bodin, one of the greatest Serbian kings. From his inception until its disappearance, their state was a Serbo-Croatian kingdom in a true sense of the word. It was created by one branch of the Serbian dynasty on the territory of Serbia with a mixed Serbian and Croatian population. It never owned today's Dalmatia, but only a part of it. It never had Lika and Krbava in its possession, let alone Bosnia or Herzegovina. It also never owned the cities of Zadar, Trogir and Split, let alone Dubrovnik or the cities of Kvarner. If some historical rights were established on the basis of the existence of 1 century of this kingdom, those rights are in first place Serbian and then only in a second place Croatian. From the beginning of the 12th century until today, when it comes to territory and borders, state relations have been established between Serbia and Hungary, Serbia and Venice, Serbia and Turkey, Serbia and Austria, and it was never between the relations between Serbia and Croatia. Ostrivojević dynasty. Ostrivojevići from 1111 to 1171. King Bodin left behind 2 sons, Mihailo and Đura, but neither of them inherited his father. The nobles imposed Dobroslav II, Bodin's paternal brother, as a new king. He was the son of Mihailo's second marriage imposed to a Byzantine princess. Thanks to the influence of his mother and family ties with Byzantium, Dobroslav began to pursue a pro-Byzantine policy. That was a reason why the Rashka Ban Volkan came with an army and besieged Skodra, so he won, captured and imprisoned King Dobroslav in 1113. After long negotiations and conflicts between the nobles, Bodin's eldest brother Vladimir III was elected as the new king of Serbia. He married the daughter of Ban Volkan, and thus lasting peace could be achieved in Serbia, and a former king Dobroslav was released from prison. Bodin's wife, Queen Jakvinta, worked secretly against King Vladimir in favor of her younger son Đuro. Her actions were discovered, she was sent to a monastery, but Đuro came to the Serbian throne in 1118. At that time, there were several princes from the Ostrivojević dynasty who took part in the fight for the throne. King Đura was besieged in Shkodra in 1122 by his relatives, so he had to resign from the throne and flee to Rashka. Then his cousin Grubisha came as a king of Serbia, who proved to be a good ruler. However, Đuro came with the army from Rashka, so he defeated King Grubisha in a battle near Bar, who died at the same time. Đuro's army was led by Prince Dragilo, the brother of King Grubisha, known as the military leader. Thus, Đuro returned to Serbian throne for the second time. King Bela II ruled in Hungary at that time. The border between Serbia and Hungary was the Sava River, the Una River, and the south the Grahova Valley to Unac, Glamoch and Zrmanja. The parish of Čelebić, which covered Livno, remained separated by Kupres, and also the parish of Imotski, which bordered on the Serbs of Duvno and Neretva. We see that the border of Serbia at that time was moved to the west from Krka to Zrmanja, and that 2 Croatian parishes, Čelebić and Imotski, were isolated among the Serbs. At the same time, we see that the Hungarians had taken Lika and Krbava. At that time, Ban Borić ruled in Bosnia, and in Rashka, Ban Dragina, the brother of King Grubisha. In 1139, the sons of Prince Dragil rebelled against King Đuro. Prvoš, Grubisha, Nemanja and Širak so the following year he had to leave the throne, a good and very popular ruler. He had 3 sons, Radoslav, Ivanish and Vladimir. He was succeeded by his eldest son Radoslav and a third king of Serbia with that time. Ban of Raška, Uroš, and his son Desa rebelled against him. The internal war in Serbia lasted for several years. When Desa died in Trebinje 1160, the war was continued by his son Miroslav, Nemanja and Konstantin. This war also had religious motives. King Radoslav was of the Serbian Orthodox faith, and Desa and his sons were Catholics. King Radoslav lost that war with Desa's sons and withdrew from throne in 1169. The last and decisive battle was fought between Nemanja and Radoslav's brother Ban Vladimir near Pristina in 1170. Nemanja won, and the following year he proclaimed himself the ruler of Serbia, but not as a king, but only as a great prefect. At that time, Nemanja could not be crowned king because the Serbs considered him an usurper. This ended the reign of the Ostrvojević dynasty and began the reign of the new dynasty, Nemanjići.